Hog Story. Early in my apprenticeship, I'd been working outside every day. This summer was a hot one, with high humidity. Out of the blue, the business agent gave me a call and asked me if I'd like to take a job working in a cooler at a local hog processing facility. He made the deal a little sweeter by offering to put me on as a journeyman. I would now be making $3.52 an hour. At that time, apprentice wages were $1.76. Without any forethought, I told him hell yes. I was not smart enough to consider why he would call me, an apprentice, to take what sounds to be a cushy job in a cool atmosphere. Something wasn't right with this deal. It was hot before I even got to work that next day. I first went to the business agent's office for my referral. I asked just what the problem was with this job, and he didn't offer it to any other journeyman. He looked at me with a straight face, just laughed, and told me I needed to expand my experience. He later told me that from time to time he would refer an apprentice to learn new things. I finally arrived at the plant and made my way to the job shack. I met the foreman and he gave him my referral. He told me to go out and find Shorty. I knew Shorty, as I'd worked with him before. He was a great welder, but had a serious alcohol problem. One of my duties on the last job I worked with Shorty was to go to the bar and talking him into leaving the bar so that we could both be to work on time. Sometimes that would be a real treat if he'd already started drinking or never stopped from the night before. I was happy to see he was already on the job, and it was no longer my duty to drag his butt out of the bar. He saw me and we shook hands. He told me I needed to go inside the walk-in cooler and climb up in the steel and start putting up pipe hangers. I picked up some tools, some oil thread, nuts, washers. Scaffolding was already there, so I climbed up and started to work. It was about a half an hour later that I found out why they gave me this job. When they kill hogs, remove their skins and internals, they put them in what they called a pre-cooler. Now, when they put a hog in a pre-cooler that's already cold and they are still about room temperature, they develop a steam that comes off of them. It wasn't but about an hour before the air was so thick that I couldn't see the floor. I wear glasses, and all I had to do was touch them, and I could barely see through them. Putting up hangers was an event, to say the least. The steel was slimy and slick, making climbing around very dangerous. I did the best I could do with the existing conditions. After a couple days, I heard the stories of what happens when one of the hogs gets loose and makes its way to the cutting floor. They go wild and the workers get up on the tables to keep from being attacked. At the time, I thought it just was funny. While we were eating lunch, I asked if anyone had seen them kill the hogs. They all told me they had and didn't like what they saw. They explained the hogs will run down a chute, which gets narrower as it gets closer to the end. There's a squeeze chute at the end that holds them in single file. They are shocked, which essentially knocks them out. A chain was hooked to the back leg, and as they were pulled up, a person cuts their throat. Their blood is collected as they bleed out. They told me that after lunch we could walk over to that point and see them in action. They warned me that sometimes two hogs will get one on top of another, and when they shock the first, the second gets a less potential shock. All it does is make them mad. And when they get loose, those are the ones that put all the people on top of the tables. The chute stood about 6 feet above the floor from where we were standing. We watched a couple go through, which was all I needed, when suddenly 2 hogs were on top of each other. I was curious, so I had to stay and watch. The operator shocked the first, hooked up the chain and slit his throat, leaving the other one free to jump out of the chute. Now you must imagine the situation. There was me standing there looking up at a hog coming off the top of a chute, coming right at me. My instinct took over and I turned and ran. The next thing I remember is running down a hallway that had fire coming out of both sides. It was later told that that's how they removed the hair from the skin. While on a dead run, I saw a ladder, so I grabbed it. I swung up the ladder and my right foot found the first ring. My attire for work those days was a set of bib overalls, a size too big so they'd fit over my street clothes. I always had a set of channel locks in my back pocket in the bibs. As I took the first step up the ladder, those channel locks fell out of my pocket and hit me on the back of my leg. I thought the hog had grabbed my pants leg and it was going to maul me to death. So I did what every brave young man would do in that situation. I screamed like a girl. I looked up, saw people working on the other side of the fires. They were laughing and pointing at me. I looked down and there was no hog in sight. I later found out that when the operator saw the hog starting to come toward me, he reached out and slit the hog's throat. It just went a few feet and died. The guy who took me over to see this action was standing there with tears in his eyes from laughing. After thinking about it, I would have laughed in that situation as well. Walking back to the project, we talk about what had happened. I asked him not to tell the other guys. He just smiled. Of course, the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "You should see how fast this kid can run." Then he told them the whole story, and everybody had a big laugh. I didn't return to watch the process ever again. The job finally came to an end, and truthfully, I must admit I did learn a few things. Just another one of those life experiences that I've had so many of.